Hey, teacher friends, are you actually planning for the school year? Maybe you're just waiting for the district to drop off your pacing plan. Perhaps you've already decided I'm just going to go lockstep with the curriculum, or maybe you're just like, hey, I'm just going to wing it. Friends, those are all recipes for disaster, and here's why. When you only rely on like the pacing plan or the curriculum, you lose that flexibility to do things like reteaching, run small groups, and then you can't spiral back in skills because essentially you're sprinting a marathon. But when you create your own plan, your own year plan, you're going to get that 360 view of what's happening. You'll be able to slow down. You'll know when they need more and when you can speed up. And basically, you're going to be teaching your students and not the textbook. So today I'm breaking down my 6 easy steps for planning for the entire school year that you can do no matter what grade you're teaching, what subject. And if you don't know me, I'm Dr. D. I'm a teacher educator and K-12 classroom teacher with over 20 years of experience. So I'm not just talking the talk, I'm actually walking the walk with you. So seriously, why haven't you subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next? And if you actually want to see my entire 6th grade year plan that I'm doing, join my membership. You can see all of that and get exclusive goodies that you can bring into your classroom to just make your teaching life easier. So let's go ahead and jump into step 1 of planning for your entire school year. Okay, step 1, start with your students, not the pacing plan. So even if you're handed a curriculum that's mapped out day by day, you can't just teach the book. You have to teach your students. So start by looking at your students' data, diagnostics, last year's benchmarks, writing samples, even informal surveys about their strengths, their struggles, right? Those soft skills. Our school uses iReady Diagnostic, and it's going to tell me exactly who's ready for 6th grade math and who has gaps that I need to address. It's also going to share with me the big picture, like how my class is performing overall across all of the math domains. So it's going to let me know like where kids are struggling. Like last year, it was geometry because teachers never have the time to teach it. I was able to then plan in some prerequisite skills that I wanted to use for reteaching and do some really rich tasks. Like I had my students design a dream home that they actually loved, but it actually made those geometry skills stick. So teaching with data is going to help you design instruction that's actually relevant and responsive. I also like to begin my year plan with what I call a unit 0. Okay, it's the foundations and readiness. And it's just a short period where, I can address some of those gaps. I can address some of those prerequisite skills. And if you don't know where to begin for your ground 0, you want to just start looking at your previous year grade level standards. And of course, let your data tell the story. Okay, so now that we've identified our unit 0, remember essential skills, readiness, things kids need for the entire school year, you're going to go ahead and move in to your first unit. Remember that instead of treating your pacing guide like it's written in stone, you're going to map it out and you're going to think about that data. And so you can build in some flex weeks, which is where you need to go into concepts and skills with greater depth. For example, if I was teaching 7th grade ELA, my year might look something like Unit 0, 2 weeks just to focus on foundations. I'm going to review the grammar, sentence structures, reading strategies. Then I'm going to bounce into Unit 1, 4 weeks on narrative writing. We're going to be talking about building strong beginnings, dialogue, sensory detail. Unit 2 might be 5 weeks, okay, because it's a heavy one. It's going to be informational text and essay writing. And I know my kids always need a longer time with that writing process. Unit 3, a little bit lighter, focuses on poetry. Maybe I'll build in a project where they have to do a spoken word project. And then Unit 4, another flex week because it's on argumentative writing and research. That always takes some time, right? Because I'm building in some technology tools and things I want them to do. Unit 5, 4 weeks on novel studies. So we're going to be analyzing themes, character development, and crafting literary essays. So again, the same logic is going to apply no matter what you're teaching. In math, I always need more time with algebra and fractions. So I'm going to build in some flex weeks for those units too. And maybe if you're teaching science, you need some more flex weeks with those lab experiments, right? They take more time. So that flex weeks, that's your buffer. It's going to allow you to breathe, reteach, extend projects without feeling like you're constantly behind. And planning this way in advance means you don't have to steal from spring break or your standardity, right? Because those things always pop up. So let's bounce over to our third step. Okay, step 3 is assessments. So now that you've mapped out your units, the next step is to plan your assessments. And you really need to create a rhythm here. Assessments are kind of like the heartbeat of your class. It's a predictable pattern. It's how you check for understanding, but it also sets the expectation for your students. So it's important for your students to know what to expect too. And in my classroom, I have 4 layers of assessment: daily, weekly, end of the unit, and benchmark. So I'm going to break those down to you. For example, my daily checks are just my quick, low stakes way of seeing, where the lesson landed. This is so important for me as a teacher. I'm like, did it stick, or do I need to do this again? For ELA, you might use exit tickets. Math, you might just do one problem on the board on a whiteboard. Science, maybe it's just like one sentence using like the claim from the day's lab. In history, maybe it's just a warm up analyzing a short quote or primary source that you've been talking about. So that's your daily check. Your weekly check, okay, this is where you go a little bit deeper, and it's still going to be short. Maybe it's, 3 to 5 questions. It's got to be manageable, but it's going to give you a little bit more information of what's actually sticking in your classroom. For example, an English language arts teacher might do a 1 paragraph or reading response or vocabulary quiz. In math, I love to just do 3 to 5 questions that's going to spiral those concepts and skills we've been working on. Science, you might have a short lab with some reflection and data analysis. History, you might have short answer quiz or on some key events or terms. Next, we're going to do our end of the unit checks. And these are going to show mastery of the entire unit. Now, and for math, all of those skills are going to build on each other. So I want to see where my students are in their progression. Maybe you're an English language arts teacher. You want to do like an end of the unit podcast or an anthology. Math, I like to do, just having my students design a digital board game project based. Science can be a full lab report or group presentation. And history, you might have an essay or Socratic seminar. Maybe your students are doing a mock trial, right? Finally, number 4 is your quarterly or benchmark checks. Here, you're going to zoom out, right? You're going to measure growth across multiple standards. It's going to allow you to really see what my students are doing in their grade level content areas. So for English language arts, you might have your students do a portfolio review. Math, you might have a district benchmark test. Science, maybe you're doing an exam, right? Or a cross-unit project. And in history, a common assessment is, an end of the quarter research paper. So again, these 4 things, they're going to create the assessment rhythm of your classroom. And it's going to give you data, right? Constantly getting all this cool data. You can bring it to an IEP meeting. You can share at a parent conference. But it's also going to let you know what's sticking and what's working in your classroom. It's also going to tell your students, like, here's what we're doing. Here's what to expect. So students can manage their stress, right? And it lets you identify spots really early on, so that way you can reteach before those big state tests. So when you create this assessment rhythm from the start of the year, you're not scrambling. Your students know what to expect. You're creating a steady flow of feedback that's going to guide your instruction, and it's going to support your students working towards mastery. Okay, step 4 is building and spiraling and mastery checks. So once your units and assessments are mapped, the next layer of planning is spiraling, making sure that we come back again and again so that the learning actually sticks. Because here's the truth. If you only teach something once, twice, 3 times, and you never revisit it, your kids are going to forget, right? So spiraling allows us to revisit core skills across the year. But we could do this in multiple ways, through warm-ups, journals, projects, discussions. So what does this actually look like? So if I'm an English language arts teacher and maybe I'm doing my poetry unit and my students really need to have mastery of writing thesis statements, I'm going to spiral that in so it doesn't disappear months later. In math, again, I've already identified that fractions are huge. They need to have mastery of it. It's a key standard. I'm going to keep sprinkling this in. Maybe it's through warm-ups, or maybe we're doing a project. I'm going to add some fractions in there. Science, I might be working on the scientific method. I'm going to weave it into every single lab that we're working on. So you get it. Identify those key skills, identify what your students need to have strong mastery, and spiral it back into your instruction in multiple ways. That's what we're doing. It really matters. It's going to help your students own what they need to know. And it's going to recognize that we need to help our students move that information from short-term memory to long-term mastery. Okay, step 5, it's my favorite. It's planning projects and real-world application into your plan. This is the fun stuff. This is what makes learning stick. And this is the real world application where students go off the script, off the worksheets, off the page, and they actually get some choice and voice. And so a mistake I often see teachers make is they do projects at the end of the year, or they just treat it as an add-on only for kids that, they finish all their work. But everyone needs access to projects. It keeps students motivated. It gets them to think beyond the worksheet. In fact, we did a project one year. It was on design their own cereal box. And there was something that was absolutely very similar in the end of the year state test on performance-based tasks. If you're an English language arts teacher, you could have your students do a podcast, or they could do a poetry slam. If you're teaching history, you can have your students do like a real world project of the ancient civilization where they're creating a model. Similarly, in science, you could have your students do a lab expo, right? Just make it fun. Have them do debates. Have them go off the script. Have them use their skills, apply some of the things that they love to do with technology, right? And make it fun, because that's what learning's all about, right? And that's why kids show up to school every day. So projects really do matter. They make learning authentic. They answer that age-old question, when will I ever use this? And because you've mapped them out ahead of time, you know exactly where to place them. And you're not going to place them at the end of the year when kids are ready, to have a summer. You're going to place them where they matter, and it's going to help you make learning stick. So don't skip projects. Okay, step 6, keep it living, not locked. Here's the last step, and it may be the most important. Remember, your plan is not a script. It's a living document. And essentially, I'm telling you, you have permission to change it. You have permission to modify it, because every group of students is different, even if you are teaching 5 periods of 6th grade math, right? So what does this look like in practice? Maybe the novel you planned in your English language arts class isn't clicking. Swap it for another one. Maybe in your math class, that ratio unit's taking more time, right, than you thought it would. Maybe if you're teaching science, you need more time for data analysis, or you need to reteach graphing because they never got that in their math class. And maybe as a history teacher, your students are loving debates. You want to spend a few more times doing it. So remember, your pacing guide is just a map. Your year-long plan is the roadmap, but you are the driver. You get to decide, slow down, speed up, take a detour. Just don't get a ticket. And honestly, that big picture plan is what's going to give you the freedom to adapt without guilt, because you've already built in that flex time and balance. So let's zoom out for a second and go over our 6 steps. Step 1, identify Unit 0, essential skills. Step 2, map out your year with some flexible timeframes. Step 3, build in your assessment rhythm. Step 4, spiral for mastery. Step 5, Dr. D's favorite projects. Step 6, keep your plan living, not locked. And if you want a free copy of my Year at a Glance planning template, you can grab it in the description. And remember that my members are going to get access to my actual teacher plan with all the goodies, all the live links that I'm actually using in my classroom. Now I want to hear from you. What's one unit in your subject that always takes longer than the planning guide says? Drop it in the comments and let us know, where are you going to be that first flex week?